When this book was published, John Dickson Carr, 1906 to 1977, had established an enviable reputation as an author of clever and entertaining detective fiction. Gideon Fell was his premier detective, although many fans have a soft spot for Sir Henry Merivale, whose first recorded cases were the Plague Court murders and the White Priory murders, both published in 1934 under the transparent pen name Carter Dickson. Between them, Fell and Merivale appeared in some of the most ingenious, impossible crime mysteries ever published. Intriguingly, there is a reference in Till Death Do Us Part to Goblin Wood, and The House in Goblin Wood is Carr's finest short story, although a case for Merivale rather than Fell. For good measure, Carr also created Colonel March of Scotland Yard, a character who appeared in short stories rather than full-length books. Like Major Price in this novel, March was modelled on Carr's friend and fellow Detection Club member John Rode. In his biography of the author, John Dickson Carr, the Man Who Explained Miracles, Professor Douglas Green explains that the central idea for this novel came from a radio script Carr had written for CBS, Will You Walk Into My Parlour, which he rewrote for the BBC under the title Vampire Tower. Green says that, at the conclusion, Carr provides a clever and probably practical solution to the locked room problem. Carr himself later said that it was his favourite gimmick, if we confine matters strictly to getting out of locked rooms rather than the general field of the impossible situation. In 1997, the BBC broadcast a two-part radio adaptation of the book as part of its Gideon Fell series, starring the late Donald Sinden. These were all produced and directed by Enid Williams and dramatised by Peter Ling. Carr was born in Uniontown, Pennsylvania, and harboured ambitions to become a writer from his early days. After spending some time in France, he created Henri Bencolin, who appeared in short stories before Carr published his first novel, It Walks by Night, in 1930. The first 4 of the 5 Bencolin novels have been published as British Library crime classics, and even though they are the work of an apprentice novelist, they are notable for their energy and imagination. Fell arrived on the scene in 1933 in Hag's Nook and proceeded to become one of the most memorable sleuths of the golden age of murder between the 2 world wars. Till Death Do Us Part is a dazzling showcase for the great man's detective skills and a reminder of Carr's gift for constructing a fiendish mystery plot. Martin Edwards. www.martinedwardsbooks.com. Chapter 1. Thinking the matter over afterwards, Dick Markham might have seen omens or portents in the summer thunderstorm, in the fortune-teller's tent, in the shooting range, in half a dozen other things at that bazaar. But the fact remains that he hardly even noticed the weather. He was much too happy. Ahead, as he and Lesley turned in at the open gates with their stone pillars topped by the heraldic design of griffin and ash tree, stretched the grounds of Ash Hall. The smooth lawns were gaudy with booths and striped tents. For a background, they had oak trees and the long, low, red brick line of the hall. It was a scene which, 4 or 5 years later, would come back to Dick Markham with a nostalgia like anguish. A lush, green, burning England. An England of white flannels and lazy afternoons. An England which, please God, we shall never lose for any nonsense about a better world. There it lay, in opulence, a year or so before the beginning of Hitler's war, though opulent was hardly a word that could be applied to the estate of George Converse, last Baron Ash. Yet Dick